Apple just held WWDC 2020, where they announced one of the largest updates to the Mac ecosystem in a long time. That update is called Mac OS Big Sur. The update covers a wide range of changes to the UI, from a redesigned dock to Control Center for Mac, revised Notification Center, and a bunch of other changes that both update the system and bridge the gap between iOS and macOS. With an update this big, there's a lot to cover, so hit that like button, hit the subscribe button to see more, and let's just get into it. So the update itself brings what Apple's calling a complete redesign to the system, changing elements from icons to toggles and sliders to shapes and symbols. The symbols have all been updated to reflect the iOS standard and will now look a lot more harmonious. Much like on the iPad, programs are getting a much more colorful look and a redesigned interface with the sidebar that hosts a majority of the navigation. You can expect an overhaul of all typical apps, including Finder, Mail, Photos, Apple Music, and more. Along with that, we've got a new Control Center, Notification Center, and reworked sounds and alerts. Even icons have been redesigned to give more depth, simplicity, and keep small elements of detail that we're used to. A redesigned dock updates the look and leads to an overall smoother experience within the macOS system. Overall, you'll see a lot more rounded corners, a lot more color, more space and room to breathe, which I think is telling that Mac is actually stepping a lot closer to that touchscreen experience, maybe a couple updates down the road. Parts of the OS that really stood out to me are those little UI tweaks like the toggles and the sliders that have now been updated. When you click on sound and see a brand new slider that seems much more modern, which extends into a new Control Center which features a similar look to the iOS experience. Clicking through some of these items provides more details, much like Force Touch on iPad and iOS. Items can also be dragged from Control Center and are essentially pinned to the menu bar. Notification Center is now accessed just by tapping the clock, so they've gotten rid of that indicator in the menu bar, to which it slides over as usual. They stack like on iOS and expand when you click on them. You can customize widgets in Notification Center in varying small, medium, and large formats, with Apple apps hosting most sizes across most apps. And it does look like we're seeing third-party support at launch with all of these widgets. In the actual Apple demo, we saw Todoist and Journal. Widgets can be dragged into view and small widgets can be stacked side by side. My one problem with widgets is that they're meant to be seen at a glance when you need them. And I can't help but think I would be using them more often if they could be pinned to the desktop, much like they are on iPhone and iPad. What we're seeing is that they're still held within that Notification Center pane, and you have to swipe over to access them, an area that I often forget about when using macOS. Next, we have messages. Much like in iOS, it's got a bunch of new features like pinning chats, a new universal search feature, a redesigned interface, and the ability to edit memojis on Mac. Pinned messages show as circles at the top of messages, and when someone types, it'll display right in the bubble. You'll also see mentions and replies in group threads, which are shown on the right. And now Safari also has quite a few improvements. In fact, they went as far as to say this is the most radical redesign since the launch of Safari. Apple claims to be 50% faster than Google Chrome with page load performance. Along with that, there's a bunch of new features, one of which is immediately noticeable on launch, and that is the new start page. Now you're able to control what's shown, include a custom background or a preset, add other items like iCloud tabs and reading list. And tabs also take up less space automatically, and we'll see a live preview of websites when you hover over tabs. There's also some quality of life updates, such as close other tabs or close tabs to the right. There's also some significant privacy updates, but we won't get into that. So there's a bunch of updates that Apple just released at WWDC for macOS. Very exciting. Let me know in the comments what you guys are most excited about and what you want more detail on. I'm about to install it on my Mac, so we're gonna dive into a lot more videos like this. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.